Hi, this is Lee Giles. I'm going to walk you through the site and the curriculum. See what we can do. So this is the main page, genesiscurriculum.com. So from here, this will take you to different parts of the site. So this is the main curriculum: history, science, language, arts, math, and the STEPS series. Okay, so these are not part of the main curriculum. A couple quotes. Okay, so click on our curriculum. There's just one thing there. If you click on our curriculum, then you can see these different pieces, read about them. Okay, that's like the overview of the different parts. Genesis Curriculum is the big main book. Math is math. Levels, kind of grades 1 through 4. GC Steps, preschool, kindergarten, but it's 3 years for ages like 4 to 7. And then the Rainbow Readers, that's just separate from the curriculum. If you wanted to use those for your reading, they're the same books as EP, but just each individual book, not like a big book with all of them together. And it has a thing for vocabulary in there. So you can click on any of these things to get there, or you can go up here. Like there's Genesis Curriculum. So here's me reading the lesson, us playing a spelling game. And here's links, course descriptions for each year of the curriculum. There's 4 years, and then you could rotate them. Kind of like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. And there's more links for to all the books for each one. So you start with Genesis or Matthew. There are no levels. It's not grades, right? This isn't like level 1 and this is harder or something like that. Every book is for every age to do together. So there's no levels. There's not so much progression, except that the Hebrew, like learn the alphabet here, and then it's assumed in Exodus that you already know the Hebrew alphabet. And here you start Greek, and so here it's assumed that you have already had that introduction to the alphabet in Greek and stuff like that. And sometimes it'll mention in Genesis we learned about, whatever. But it'll like review a little bit. It doesn't really, rely on you remembering everything you were taught. So there's no themes. It's not like this is ancient history and this is American history. It's not like that at all. Every book covers, all those different areas of history. It covers all the different areas of science. There's physics, there's chemistry, there's biology, there's earth science in each one. Okay, so you really you choose Matthew or Genesis to start. And this tells you more. There's not a workbook page for every day. You just read the lesson out loud. You can watch a video to see what a lesson is like. And, it's more about discussion and talking together. There's 5 weeks of lessons and then 2 weeks of reviews. And all those review weeks, they'll do a workbook page most days and other activities. Whereas the normal day is just reading together. There's spelling and vocabulary each day, but it's not done as like a workbook. The only workbooks there are the tracing and copy work. So you have older kids, 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 8-year-old, but you also have a 6-year-old. Maybe you'd want to get the tracing book for your 6-year-old. Just gives them something, a place for, this is the copy workbook. The picture here, there's a sample here though. Gives you, and there's videos on YouTube that you can see inside. It gives you a place where they can trace their spelling words, because they're big words for the older kids. They can trace the spelling words. And this page here is the vocabulary word for a day, and it uses it in sentences, and they can draw a picture to show the vocabulary. So it gives them something to do while the older kids are kind of working on that stuff. The copy workbook has a verse a day to copy, and then they can use this space to write their spelling words, or to, at the end of each day, they're supposed to write a sentence on their own, so they can use that space to write that sentence. So it's not really like lesson, those things, but it's just useful for little kids to give them something to do. Okay. The main books are the main lesson book. Okay, and it describes it 145 to 180 days. You can use it for at the end of the year as different projects for the last few weeks. So there's a workbook. Again, it's not every day, but there's like review activities. The answer book, and a map book. This was so I could have colored pictures when they'd be helpful, but it's mostly maps. Okay, so I hope that helps some. The other pieces are GC steps. There's the description, samples, and look inside, and the ages. That's learning your letter sounds. This is learning your sight words. This is learning phonics. And then the math builds little by little to like adding and subtracting in here. Mind for Math, again, that's just separate from the main curriculum. A Mind for Math, you get the teacher book. This one, you get the teacher book. Nice samples. And then you get your child the correct level of workbook. So you can use a placement guide. And you can see inside all those books there. So you don't need to use that math, like use the curriculum. It's linked to the main curriculum, in that, like, this is Matthew. So, the word problem of the day will relate to whatever the reading was that day. The disciples, slept until noon. How long were they asleep? Jesus walked to the city. He walked, if he walked this far, how far did he walk? Or whatever. Things like that. Like the word problems will relate to the day, was inspired by, the little idea for the lesson was inspired by whatever the scripture was that day. So that's how it relates, but they don't have to go together. It's just nice. Okay, and the readers, it's an explanation of how it's different from EP, and all the books. Now I have this complete through level 5. That's all I have complete of all the books for the level. Okay, so the online support page, you can click right on that. There's the mailing list, Facebook group, contact me, print out pages. So for each year, we have Spelling City. You can go on there and practice your spelling words, take the spelling test at the end of the week. All the words are on there for spelling and vocabulary. So you could do that at the end of each week. Some links for Hebrew, some helps for writing. At the end of each lesson, it just says, use the discussion question as a writing prompt. And your different ages will write either a sentence, a paragraph, or be working on an essay. So that's, you just have to have them do that. And I just give some helps. In their curriculum, in their workbook, they'll have, editing checklists for those things and organization pages that you can use to help them, to teach them to write. You're the teacher in this curriculum, so you need to read the lessons to them. This is not meant for you to give the books to the kids and they just do them. Even the math, you don't just give them the workbook and they do it. You read the lesson to them, and you're talking, working out loud. The workbooks are always here for you to print or to print out an extra page. Maybe for a younger kid wants to do just certain activities, you can just print out those pages. And that's that. And then FAQ page, frequently asked questions. So what subjects? The main curriculum is history, science, language, arts, and biblical language. What ages is it for? The main curriculum is 3rd grade to 8th grade. You can use it younger and older. If you have younger kids, they can just tag along. if your child's coming out of, your oldest child is coming out of the STEPS books, I have a junior edition coming out in just like a week or two. That's for them. It's an easier version of the main curriculum, shorter. What do you need to buy? So on the store page, it says the what you need set, the main book, workbook, answer book, map book. You need one of each of those, no matter what. But then you also want one workbook for each child in at least your children between 3rd grade and 8th grade. You want them each to have their own workbook. You can use it with EP. A lot of people probably use EP Math and Reading. Or maybe you want to just go ahead and use the EP Language Arts as well. And Genesis Curriculum just gives you that history and science part offline. You can't order the whole thing as a set right now. Amazon doesn't let us bundle it. And I'm not selling bundles anymore. It got to be too much. So if you go to the store, so there's the what you need set. So I put them on a list on Amazon like this so you can have everything there. You can right click on it and open a new tab for each one and then just go through and add them to your cart. Whatever you want to order. So this top line is what you need to have. And then these are optional books down here. All right, I hope that helps you go through the site and use it and understand it. And you can always write and ask questions and join our Facebook community. They're a great encouraging group. Thanks.